Hey, Obias checking in here. So, all the hate behind the upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows game featuring the Black Samurai Yasuke motivated me to read a couple articles by Time and the Smithsonian Magazine to learn more about him. I even watched the Yasuke anime on Netflix that's voiced by Lakeith Stanfield, and it references major points of what's known of his story while he served under the Japanese warlord Oda Nobunaga, one of Japan's most renowned feudal lords that attempted to unify the country under his ruthless regime, but it had all the vibes and combat of anime like Afro Samurai and Inuyasha. Yasuke's story did take a back seat though to the anime's mythical Japanese world where characters fought robots, paranormal creatures, and people with supernatural abilities. It did highlight the hate Yasuke apparently received from other samurai after he was promoted to their ranks. Many did not want him recognized as a black samurai as they believed that right was reserved for Japanese men only. At one point, one of the Lord's top warriors told Yasuke, "You will always be a servant, no matter what armor you wear." Now, you can easily replace that word servant with nigga, cause calling him a servant was Netflix trying to soften the blow of what was possibly really said, and that's how many view us in society today, but with the ER. No matter what we accomplish or what professions we're in, we'll always be seen as that to some people. Now, much of the real Yasuke's backstory is a mystery, including what African country he's from, but it's speculated he's from Mozambique, Ethiopia, or possibly even Nigeria. Regardless, he arrived in Japan in 1579 as a servant and bodyguard skilled in combat with weapons for an Italian Jesuit priest named Alessandro Villagnano, who was not allowed to hire soldiers or armed guards while on his missionary, so Yasuke was his muscle. It's speculated that Yasuke was enslaved as a child and trafficked to India, where he was forced to become a military slave or indentured soldier who earned his freedom before meeting Alessandro in India. Traveling through Japan was unsafe at the time due to clashes from a civil war that began in 1467 at the collapse of the Ashikaga shogunate, who ruled Japan, which led to a fight for control by rival feudal lords. Now, Yasuke first crossed paths with Nobunaga in 1581 when Alessandro was ready to leave Japan, so they headed to the capital city at the time, Kyoto, to link with the area's ruler, which happened to be Nobunaga, to ask for his permission to leave Japan, which was custom before passports. Nobunaga was fascinated by Yasuke's skin tone and physique. It's documented he looked hella intimidating at over 6 feet tall, but his confidence and strength is what impressed people the most. The anime fills in a lot of gaps in his story through reimagined flashbacks. One highlights that it was Nobunaga who gave Yasuke his name. The Chronicles of Lord Nobunaga, a 17th century book written by one of Nobunaga's followers, describes Yasuke as appearing to be about 26 to 27 years old. In his words, the man looked robust and had a good demeanor. What's more, his formidable strength surpassed that of 10 men. Other chronicles describe the samurai as intelligent and standing over 6 feet tall. The anime references an event described in 1581 where Yasuke wins a street fight and Nobunaga applauds his performance and asks his servants to clean him because he thought he was dirty. When his appearance stayed the same, he asked him if he inked his skin black, and Yasuke's response was, "I was born with black skin." Nobunaga then threw his visitors a welcome party. Then, days later, Yasuke was accepted into the feudal lord's service as the first foreigner given warrior status in Japan. Now, Yasuke was not the first and only black person in Japan. At the time, hundreds of black people lived in Japan as translators, soldiers, and entertainers. So even though it was uncommon to see a black person, no one was racist enough to challenge Nobunaga's decision to include Yasuke into his service. And it wasn't a major controversy at the time. During that era, the term samurai was a lot more flexible to define warriors who fought on behalf of a lord or great warrior. So you didn't have to be skilled in any particular weapon style to be considered a samurai. You just had to be able to lay someone down. Even though Yasuke was already a skilled warrior, he most likely went through more martial arts and sword training after joining Nobunaga's army though. By 1581, Nobunaga had thousands of samurai in his service, but Yasuke belonged to his personal entourage of about 30 to 50 bodyguards, comprised mainly of young men that he mentored and had sexual relationships with. But there's no records of Yasuke and him ever hooking up. In the anime, Yasuke is traumatized by the Honoji incident where on June 21st, 1582, Nobunaga was ambushed by his general Akechi Mensuhide at a temple. The general was leading the charge to a battlefield with 13,000 men, but mysteriously decided to turn around and attack Nobunaga and his 30 private bodyguards in an infamous act of betrayal. In the anime, General Akechi's betrayal is fueled by Nobunaga breaking traditions and allowing new ways of leadership, including allowing outsiders to join their army as samurai, but that remains a mystery. Yasuke was Nobunaga's weapon bearer who held on to the warlord's weapons, and according to Japanese tradition, during the ambush at the temple, Yasuke, Nobunaga, and his lover Mori Ranmaru retreated into an inner chamber where Nobunaga performed seppuku, a form of ritual suicide regarded as a way to retain your honor even in defeat by sending out the message that you are in control of your own fate. It's usually followed up by a friend beheading you to prevent suffering. According to tradition, after Ranmaru finished him off, he apparently couldn't live without his man, so he performed seppuku right after, and Yasuke then decapitated him after being tasked with escaping with Nobunaga's head and giving it to his son. Even though a fire started by the attackers would most likely burn their bodies, this was done to prevent General Akechi from holding up Nobunaga's head to the people as a trophy that legitimizes him as a powerful ruler, not to be played with. Since he didn't have the head, He didn't get much support and his enemies didn't take him seriously, so he was later defeated in battle. After Nobunaga's death, Yasuke joined his son Nobutada and his 200 men who went up against the general, but since they were hella outnumbered, they lost, and Nobutada performed seppuku on the same day as his father. Not much is known about Yasuke after the battle. It's most likely he was left for dead on the battlefield, only to later be captured by the general's men, as the last records of him claim he was escorted by the general's troops into a Jesuit mission house in 1582. It's speculated the general spared his life to gain the support of the Jesuit missionaries, but it ain't do him any good. What's known about Yasuke's story ends here. I think the anime is an entertaining way to learn about his story, so check that out if y'all haven't already. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I have content dropping every week, so lock in, and I'm gonna get up with y'all on the next video, alright? Holla at me. You hypnotized off the hatred. Deep down, you don't wanna see us make it. Deep down, you'd rather see us in the basement.